It's time.
We're going to call this meeting of the Villa Park Village Board to order. It's March 8th at 7 p.m. Clerk Konecki, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Solella?
Here.
Trustee Kazone?
Here.
Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Patrick?
Here.
Trustee Tucker?
Here.
Trustee Wagner?
Here.
Present Bolthus.
Here. Let's all rise for the pledge and remain standing for a prayer by Trustee Wagner. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Trustee Wagner has a prayer for us.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that might affect the residents, staff, businesses, surrounding communities, and all those that enter the village of Villa Park. And continue to remind us that all we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is public comments on agenda items. Does anyone here from the public have any comments on agenda items? Anybody signed up?
I have no one.
Okay, then we'll move on to the amendments to the agenda. Do any of the board members have any amendments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the presentation and discussion, but first we have the badge presentation for firefighter paramedic Jacob Furtek. And Chief Rakosnik is going to lead us off. Is Bri here with?
You guys can come on in.
Yeah.
Everybody come on in, just be distance a little bit. Right, this is a feel-good story. I think we need a feel-good story after the pandemic. Jake Furtek joined the Villa Park. Let me take it off. Can you hear me now?
Come on in.
So Jake Furtek joined the Villa Park Fire Department about a year ago, and he has to go through a probationary period, which is about 1 year.
You guys all
And
work
Jake's
together.
Trustee?
Go ahead. Sorry.
So he joined us about a year ago, and he has a 1 year probationary period that he's got to go through. And during that time, we train with him. We do a lot of things with him to see how he does. Jake did an exemplary job. He did a really good job. So he's here tonight to get his badge, and we do a badge presentation that is either put on by his wife or his dad. He chose to have his father, who is a 21-year paid-on-call veteran of the Villa Park Fire Department. How many years ago, Frank? Too many years ago. But I actually knew Frank a long time ago in my previous life, and so I've known Frank for a long time. Good guy, and probably a better son. So we're glad to have Jake. So prior to coming to Villa Park, Jake was a Oak Brook Terrace Fire Protection District firefighter. He was there for I don't know how many years, 8 years. And then he took the test for Villa Park, and he came to Villa Park about a year ago. He has numerous fire certifications, including Fire Officer 1, Fire Service Instructor, Fire Investigator, and he's got a few more than that. And currently he's joining our Fire Investigation Unit. He'll be a very active member, and we're looking forward to that. Like I said, Jake's dad, Frank, was a 21-year member of the Villa Park Paid-on-Call Fire Department a few years ago. Jake currently resides in Villa Park with his wife, Jamie, and their recent addition to the family, their daughter, Allison, right back here. So during Jake's probationary period, like I said, he was an outstanding employee, did a great job in that year's time, and we are so proud of him, and we were proud that he made Villa Park his home, and he's proud to be a Villa Park firefighter. So Jake, congratulations. And now we'll do the badge presentation. I'll bring up Frank. Frank, come on up. This is your chance to stand.
Going to bring his wife and daughter up here too a little bit.
Isn't she cute?
just want to say thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to be here. I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to serve this community that I grew up in. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. You're doing a great job.
No, they're all in here.
Okay, we're going to, our next thing is a presentation from Stanley Consultants on the water wastewater rate study. We have Larry Thomas and Michael Colby. I think Michael's is making the presentation. We're going to use that mic right over there.
Your Honor, I think we're going to have Director Guerra introduce him a little bit.
Oh, okay. Director Guerra is going to have a few words.
Yes, thank you. As the President presented, we have Stanley Consultants with us here tonight. As you remember, back in October of 2020, we had entered into an agreement with Stanley to perform a water and wastewater rate study for us. And that study was, the focus was to analyze the fees in both of our utilities of water and wastewater to ensure the village has enough revenue to fund our daily operations, along with our planned capital projects identified in our capital 5-year improvement plan. The rate study is over 5 years that they looked at. They analyzed the past few years financially, projected that out into the 5 years while looking at our capital projects with our anticipated low interest loans that we need from the IEPA. Over the next couple of years, with our capital plan, we have about $7.7 million for potable water related projects and over $20 million for our wastewater projects and sewer separations. I do have a list for the viewers at home that was presented in the memo presented to the council, or to the board, I'm sorry, that has kind of those projects identified in the upcoming years as part of this rate analysis. And that's in addition to the other 5 low interest loans that we currently have, along with other planned capital projects. As you presented, we do have Michael Colby and Larry Thomas with Stanley Consultants to present their findings. This is just the draft report and their recommendations tonight. These are not the final ones. We're not asking for any action other than to review the recommendations that they have provided in the report. And with that, I'll hand it off to Mr. Colby.
Director Burke, could you open those doors, please? It's an open meeting. We have to have the door open. That's okay. They were making a lot of noise, so.
Good point. This isn't a good point. Got it sent you.
No, I got it. I found it. Thank you. Thank you, Director Guerra. Thank you, Village Board.
Okay,
My name is Michael.
We're going to need you to speak a little louder so we can pick you up on the mic. I can hardly hear you here.
Okay,
so.
great. Thank you. My name is Michael Colby. I'm with Stanley Consultants, and we're here to present the recommendations of our water and wastewater utility rate study. I'm going to try to move through these beginning slides quickly so we can get to the actual recommendations of the study. But so we performed a cost of service rate analysis. We looked at the past few years of revenues and expenses coming into each of the water and wastewater utilities, looked at the billing quantities within the village of what volume of water is being used by all the customers, how many customers are there, how many bills do you have per year, and essentially we took those expenses and divided them out by the billing quantities to determine what the fair and equitable rates are for the ratepayers in Villa Park. A little bit more detail there on what the billing quantities, volume of metered water, and number of bills, like I said. Lots of different expenses, as you can imagine, for these utilities. Operation and maintenance expenses, labor, salary, power, chemicals, and various other expenses. And like Director Guerra said, capital financing, a host of capital projects that are planned for both water and wastewater. And those are funded primarily in 2 ways, either through a loan from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency through their state revolving fund loan program, or some projects are funded directly from revenues without borrowing. We looked at a 5-year period from fiscal years 2021 through 2025, and we allocated all the expenses to the billing quantities. And typically, we tried to keep fixed cost to the utility. So say like a debt payment that you know for 20 years, every year you're going to have the same payment. We try to assign those to fixed charges to the customers. So the customers do have fixed charges every month, and so we try to keep fixed expenses paired with fixed charges to the customer, and vice versa. Variable expenses that fluctuate depending on how much water is sold. Generally, we try to tie those to variable charges to the customer that are based on how much water the customer uses. And like I said, we ultimately divide the assigned expenses in each category by the billing quantity for that category. So moving on, we'll look at the rate study specifically for the water utility. The existing rate structure is that all customers in the village are billed monthly. There's a fixed meter charge that is a flat fee every month, and this varies based on the size of the water meter that the customer has. So a residential customer that has a 3/4 inch meter will pay a smaller fixed meter charge than a business that has, say, a 4 or a 6 inch meter. They'll pay more. And then there's also the volume charge. And this is a flat uniform rate for all customers that is charged per 1,000 gallons of water metered. And then there's also a cross-connection fee. This is a small fixed monthly fee that non-residential customers pay for the upkeep of a backflow preventer database. That is an EPA requirement. Some assumptions, I'll touch on these quickly, that we made. We assumed that there would be no new, that the number of water accounts will stay the same over 5 years, and that the amount of water billed each year will remain stable over the 5-year period, which is in line with what we've been seeing in Villa Park. Revenues, other than water charges, there are some miscellaneous incomes into the utility. We assumed will increase at a rate of 1% per year, and operating expenses we assumed will generally increase at about 2 to 3% in line with inflation. Looking at now some numbers and some finances, this is the operating revenues and expenses projected through 2025 with the present rate. So this is a scenario where the rates do not increase. You can see the red dotted line at the top. That's the volume rate per 1,000 gallons. It's currently $9.05, and this scenario is we are projecting it to stay $9.05 per 1,000 gallons through to 2025. And then the key to look at in this graph is the purple line is total revenue, and the blue dashed line is total expenditures. And you can see in 2021, 2022, we're right about where we want to be. Revenues match expenses, and then our expenses are going up, and our revenues stay relatively stagnant because the rates aren't going up. And you can see it starts to diverge a little bit, and our expenditures are more than our revenue coming in if rates aren't increased. You can see that again here on this graph. This is, again, the scenario keeping the present rates, where the red bars is the account balance for the water utility, cash on hand. And it's at a good level now. The target is to keep it at about 1.5 million. It's at 1.75 million. And that account balance just allows for emergency expenses, unforeseen expenses that come up. There's a lot of capital projects that could have a change order that you weren't expecting. And so it's always good to have, like anyone, to have that cushion of the little bit of account balance. And so we're targeting 1.5 million. And as you can see, kind of like we saw on the last slide where the revenue and expenditures were diverging, here on the blue is the annual net revenue. And we start to have more and more negative annual net revenue as the years go on. And you can imagine on these red bars, the account balance, we're going down and down. And if this was 2 or 3 more years into the future, if we were looking further into 2026, 2027, you can imagine how this slope would continue to go down if the rates were not adjusted. And so we'll move on now. These are the proposed water rates looking forward to 2025. There's the volume rate, that's per 1,000 gallons. The customer charge is for a typical residential 3/4 inch water meter. And then we are recommending a 1% increase to both charges in 2021 and 2022. and then a slightly larger increase in the next 2 years of 3.6% and 3.2%. And this is in line with some capital projects that are planned for those years and some increased capital expenses in those years to cover those expenses. And then in 2025, some of those larger projects are passed, and we've absorbed the increased debt service payments of those projects, and we can go back down to about 1.1% increase in 2025. Additionally, for the cross-connection fee that I had mentioned, it's currently $1.20 per month for the customers that pay the cross-connection fee. It's been this $1.20 rate for many years now, and we took a look at what this program costs the village, and we are recommending that that be increased to $1.40 per month. And based on historically how the expense of that program is not fluctuated very much, we believe that that can probably stay at $1.40 in the near term, in the near future. And that should be, until the next rate study that the village conducts, would be a good time to look at that rate again. And then moving on, we'll revisit this graph now with the new proposed rates. As you can see with the red dotted line, our rates are increasing as proposed on the previous slide. And now you can see that our purple revenue line and our blue dashed total expenditures line track really close to each other. And that's what we are trying to accomplish with this rate recommendation, is to try and, if we go to the next slide, if you try and zero out the annual net revenue as much as we can, so that we're only bringing in the amount of revenue that's needed to operate the utility. We're not trying to bring in anything additional than what we need for operating and maintenance expenses and to fund the capital projects that are in the capital improvement plan. And so we're maintaining, we're not really growing the account balance very much. We're keeping that cushion available for any unforeseen expenses that come up, a major main break, or an unexpected cost in one of the planned capital projects. And the villages and the utility is maintaining healthy financials for the water utility. And now, lastly, for the water utility, we'll look at what we would expect a typical monthly bill to be for an average family. So this is for a residential customer that has a 3/4 inch water meter and uses about 7,500 gallons of water a month, which is a pretty average amount of water. And this is for a monthly bill. So in 2021, 2022, or in 2021, if the new rates are enacted, we'd expect to see about a 73-cent increase per month in water cost to an average family. In 2023, when we have the larger rate increase proposed, that's up to $2.65 per month increase. And then in 2025, you can see about an 89-cent monthly increase in the water bill that we'd expect. And then finally, a comparison with some other communities around Villa Park. We surveyed the water rates of a lot of other villages around and found that Villa Park currently, and with the 2021 proposed water rates, are right about at the median of your similar communities around. And now we will move on to the wastewater utility rate study. Very similar rate structure. The one thing I will point out that's different from the water rate structure is with the fixed meter charge. The rate is the same for all customers. The fixed meter charge on the wastewater utility does not vary based on meter size. And then there's also the sewer separation charge, which is unique to the wastewater utility. And that is a fixed monthly charge, which funds some of your sewer separation projects that are either have already happened or are planned to happen in the near future. Very similar to the water rate study, we're assuming that the amount of accounts and the amount of water sold is the same over the 5-year period. And wastewater billing is billed based on water metered. We don't also meter wastewater, so it's all based on that 1 meter reading. You pay the same volume, water and wastewater. Similarly, revenues other than wastewater charges, we're assuming 1% a year increase, and operating expenses about 2% with inflation. And now coming back to this graph for the wastewater side of things, we can see in the near future we have revenue exceeding expenditures, which is a good thing. And then there's a jump around 2023 where it evens out, and then it swings the other way where our expenditures are going to exceed our revenues by quite a bit in 2024 and 2025. And again, this is with the current rates at the top, this red dashed line. If we keep the $3.57 per 1,000-gallon rate consistent, this is what the financial results would look like we're projecting. And then similarly, you can follow the red account balance. Similar to the water, it's at about 1.74 million currently. It would grow a little bit over the next few years and then start to decline when we see that big jump around 2023. And again, you can kind of, it's a little bit 1 year delayed from the water side, but again, we see the same trend where we're going to start going down and down and see these negative annual net revenues on the wastewater, about almost $500,000 a year in the later years of the study. And the reason for this, and that the wastewater is a little bit different than the water utility, is because of this slide. And I think this is important for everyone to see, including the folks at home, these are the projects that are scheduled that will be paid for with IEPA state revolving fund low interest loans. And so you can see now in 2020, we have about a little bit less than $200,000 per year in loan repayments. And so this graph is strictly for annual debt payments. And you can see how much of an increase we have planned over the next 4 and 5 years, where we're going up to about a little over $1.3 million in annual debt payments. And so if we go back, you can see that that's what's tied to this jump in expenditures and why we go from having a positive net revenue of about $500,000 a year to a negative annual net revenue of about $500,000 per year. It's largely because of what you're seeing on this table of the capital projects that are planned, sewer main replacements, sewer separation projects, and it's really great that the village is tackling these projects. It's a lot of communities wish they could do projects like you guys have planned. And so moving forward, again, a similar table, the volume charge of per 1,000 gallons for the proposed rates. And different than the water side, we're recommending a consistent 1.5% increase each year to both the volume charge and the fixed customer charge. And that customer charge on this table is for all customers because they all, and the wastewater side, all pay the same rate. And the sewer separation charges, we are recommending a 10% increase per year for the 5 years, which, as you can see, is larger, percentage-wise is larger, but it is really only 30 cents, 40 cents in the later years. And the 10% on the sewer separation charge is tied to some of those big projects that we were looking at on the last slide are sewer separation charges. You have your Washington Avenue project that's projected to be over $6 million as a sewer separation project. And so those increases will help to pay for those sewer separation charges that the city has planned, or the village has planned, excuse me. And so coming back to this table now with the proposed rates, we still are exceeding, revenues are still exceeding expenditures in the early years. And you can see we still do have this gap of expenditures being higher than revenues in the later years, but we've closed that gap a lot. And what we're trying to do on the wastewater side, which is different than the water side, is we're building up this account balance. We're aiming for 1.5 million, like I said, but knowing that those big projects are coming that are going to greatly increase the requirements for annual debt payments, we want to build up the account balance a little bit so that we're ready for those big projects, we're ready to make those increased debt payments, and we're willing to build up the account balance so that when we start paying on those projects, we are seeing a little bit of annual negative revenue, annual deficit year on year, but we've prepared for that. We've built up the account balance. We can have a controlled drawdown of this account balance that we've built up. And as the years go on, if you can imagine, 2026, 2027 on this table, this number will get smaller and smaller as the rates continue to go up, maybe 1.5% like we are proposing. This account balance will come down a little bit, but less every year until it balances out. And we're back around 1.5 million, maybe a little bit more than that where we want to be. And we have control of all the projects that we had proposed and constructed over the last 5 years, and they're being paid off, and the wastewater utility is in a good place financially. And so moving forward, similar table, the volume, fixed and volume wastewater rates combined into a expected monthly bill for an average family, 7,500 gallons a month, same as the water. We're looking at about 70 cents per month increase in 2021, and then pretty consistent up to an additional 92 cents per month just for a wastewater account for an average family. And again, a comparison of other villages and cities around Villa Park. This one is a little bit trickier because you have to remember with Villa Park that there's also an additional Salt Creek Sanitary District water treatment charge, which is not included in here. And many of the other communities on this list also do not have treatment charges included, but some, such as the village of Elmhurst, which is here almost at one of these larger rates, it does have wastewater treatment included in that charge, and it's difficult to parse out what goes where. So it's some of these, it's not a true apples to apples comparison, but it's meant to be a rough kind of gauge of where Villa Park is relative to its peers, and I would say it's very close to the median, again, similar to the water. And this rate is combined water and wastewater, what the total cost for water and wastewater paid to the village is for your average family, and what the increase would be per month, combining the water and wastewater. So you can see a $1.41 increase total cost per month in the first year. In 2023, when we had that larger water rate increase proposed, that's $3.48 per month. And then in 2025, $1.80 per month. And that is inclusive of water volume charge, water fixed charge, wastewater volume charge, wastewater fixed charge, and the sewer separation fee. So in summary, we are recommending that the rates for the water and wastewater utilities be increased in fiscal year 2021 through 2025. These rate increases will cover the projected operating expenses, debt service and planned capital projects, and maintain the required debt coverage ratio. The IEPA requires that the village maintain a debt ratio of 1.0, which means that the revenues minus operating expenses is at least equal to the debt service obligations of the village. And so we maintain that throughout all 5 years for both utilities. And we're maintaining a healthy fund balance above the target, at or above the target of 1.5 million. And while the board could enact a 5-year rate schedule if they choose, they can, or 1 year, whatever the board chooses to do, we do recommend that the rates are reviewed every year. This is based on assumptions and projected revenues, but once you have the actual year-end financials, we are recommending that you go back and look, will these proposed rates that we were proposing now for the future years, do they still make sense? Do we need to tweak them a little bit? That's something that we recommend. And with that, I'll open it up to comments and questions.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes, I have a question. Am I correct in saying that we're in the process of changing out water meters? And what impact, do we have any way to determine what the impact of those readings will change to and how that will affect the study as we do that?
We are continuously always changing out meters as we come across stuck meters or broken meters. And we do have a small budget to try to replace the meters that are not or have the radio capabilities for us to utilize our new water metering software. We do, in this year's budget, have a $2.5 million loan planned to do a mass swap out because we have about 25% that cannot read radio remotely. And then we have about 47% that are old meters that read like every 100 gallons versus every gallon, and we cannot utilize the software to its full capacity. With this rate study, I think that's what Mr. Colby was talking about. In the water side, we have two major projects, the water meter one with $2.5 million, and then we also have College Streets that needs new water main. And those debt services are what's kind of making that jump. So we do have it planned. However, what we're trying to do is plan the revenue on the back end to pay for that debt service.
Thank you.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes, in the past, staff has told us that water usage has dropped among residents, primarily because of maybe water saving devices, you know, low flow showers, low flow toilets. Did that that's substantiated by your study as well?
I think that has been true. We looked at the last 3 years to judge our past data and projections off of, and over the past 3 years, I would say really it's leveled out. I think there was 1 year where maybe it went up a little bit, and I think obviously 2020 was a little bit of a wacky year as far as water usage goes, and so looking at the last 3 years of water data that we had, what was most compelling to us was that it was generally consistent, if not fluctuating a little bit up and down. But over more years than that, if we had looked back over the last 10 years, I think we would see a slight downward trend over a longer period into the past.
Well, the presentation was quite helpful. I just have a question. Maybe this has to do with the staff memo. It says in the staff memo the proposal will increase the monthly cost for water by approximately 75 cents per month for an average family. That's over the 5 years? Is that correct?
No, I believe it's in the slide that Mr. Colby presented. So for this upcoming year,
Okay.
it's approximately 75 cents, and then 72 cents, and then there's jumps. So for this upcoming budget, and we should point out, I don't know if it's in the presentation, but these rates were projected July 1st. So some of these numbers, that's where the projection rate. We kind of had to make a hard date for the study. And in talking about it, we decided to make a July 1st implementation date for this. So obviously, those numbers move a little bit based on when any rates increases and all that as well. But so in the memo, the 75 cents is related to just this upcoming year's immediate impact on
Water.
on water.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Trustee Kazone.
Does your study take into account any increases from DuPage Water Commission?
Yes, we did reach out to DuPage Water Commission about whether they were planning on increasing rates. And Larry, you can speak to that a little bit. You were the one that had reached out to them. But we do account for a 1% increase from DuPage Water Commission every year, yes.
Yeah, we spoke with John Spatz about this. For the past several years, they have actually been taking in the increases from the city of Chicago and increasing your rates at a very small percentage. And John expects that they will continue to do that. So we also have the Joliet situation, which is in play now, which may result in a decrease in your water rates, but don't get too anxious for that, because that's probably, Joliet won't be buying water until 2028. And I don't expect them to be adjusting anybody's rates before that. So right now, we think your rates coming from Chicago through DuPage Water Commission are going to be fairly flat.
Okay, thank you. And then, question is probably for staff here. Our account balances, do we get any kind of interest on that? And if we do, is that included in any of your study?
I have to defer to Finance Director Shable for that, but I do believe in the study we did look at all the financial. They did look at the audits the last 3 years, and I can let Mr. Colby speak, but I do believe that we did account for interest on the accounts based on how the trend has been for the last 3 years. But
Okay.
I can ask Marlene, Mr. Scheibel to come out. Maybe she can explain that a little better.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear very well in the other room.
The question was, we have these account balances in our sewer and water. Do we get any kind of interest on those?
Yes, we do.
And then that was included in the study. That was the question.
We do receive interest on that.
And we did look at the interest that you had been earning over the last 3 years, like Director Guerrero said, and have projected that into the future, yes.
Yep, thank you. Thank you.
Trustee Shell,
On the existing water rate structure, can you clarify what the fixed rate covers? What is that dollar amount being used for?
Yes, generally, like I said, we try to have the fixed rate be tied to the fixed expenses to the utility, and typically that's your debt service payments, because you know when you sign a 20-year loan agreement with the IEPA, you know for the next 20 years that you're going to have this amount that you need to pay every 6 months. And so we try to tie the fixed charge to those fixed rates that you're covering those costs that you know aren't going away for 20 years. That's not hard and fast. There is some judgment and consideration that goes into that, but as a general rule, that's what we try to tie the fixed charge to the fixed expenses for the utility, primarily the debt service payments.
Also, can we get an explanation on the cross-connection charge rate?
Director Guerrero, can you?
Yeah, so as Mr. Colby explained in the presentation, with the IEPA, we got to keep track of all the cross connections, our backflow preventers, RPZs, depending on how you want to describe them, to prohibit cross-contamination from potable water, from non-potable water into our potable water sources. For that, we utilize a software service called BSI Online, which we have to pay a fixed fee for the number of counts, and that's just pretty much a pass-through fee to cover the cost of that BSI Online database, which is required. They track when they need to be serviced, because they need to be reviewed every year, documented, and uploaded into our system. So that cross-connection is only for people that, mostly commercial locations that
was my
have it.
next question. It doesn't,
There's a few townhomes on Kenilworth that have them, but it's mostly the commercial buildings,
Okay.
because they're the locations that have the
so that
potential
charge
sources.
isn't passed on to a residential home that doesn't
No.
obviously have a backflow
Yeah,
prevention type
It's
device?
the only locations that actually have the backflow preventers get charged that rate.
Okay, thank you.
And that cross-connection fee that is there, the proposed $1.40, is not included in this table because a typical residents would not have to pay that fee.
Thank you.
anyone else? Okay, so we've got this study, we've gone over it here. You know, we've got quite a list of projects we hope to accomplish in the next few years, which are some with some rather large dollar amounts, you know, like $6.6 million for Washington, Monterey, 3.5, and so forth. So somewhere we have to have the funding to pay for all these upgrades, and this is in addition to the actual street works. So we have to come up with the money. Now, one of the possibilities, maybe some of this could change. We might get some grants or something, but that's why they recommend that we really look at it every year to see if maybe we can make some adjustments. If we do, you know, if we got a $6 million grant for Washington, of course, that'll make these numbers all a whole lot different. So what I guess what we need to know is if the board is okay with putting this request on one of our future agendas for the increase in these rates. So I think that's what we want, right? So. And then we can, Trustee Wade?
I think it needs to be discussed, obviously, and there's, you know, the charts show that expenses exceeding revenue, so we obviously have to talk about it.
Okay.
Yep.
So I guess we'll direct staff to put this on a future agenda, probably within, what, the next month or so?
Sounds good, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Michael, and thank you, Larry, for that. A lot of work went into that. I won't even ask how many hours it took you, so. A lot.
Your records were in very good shape, so this study was much easier than some of you had.
Good.
We're very happy with that.
Thank you, staff. So appreciate that. Okay. Very good. Okay, with that then, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is the bill listing for the week of February 15th and February 22nd and March 1st of 2021 for a total amount of $660,593.17. Do And we also have the minutes from the board meeting held on February 22nd, 2021. We have a motion for the consent agenda. Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, we have a second. Trustee Kazone?
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes, it passes, and with that, we'll move on to item number 7A, which is a, let me ask the attorney a question. Should we do these all together, or should we do them separately? That's the TIF split.
I mean, you could do them, there's the very same thing.
Yeah.
If you want to do them together, you of course always may.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just make a motion to do them both together.
Yes, you
Okay.
may.
Yeah, seeing that both of these, the discussion would be the same for both of these. We'll have a motion when we get done reading them, to do them all on one motion. So, item 7A is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement concerning the Village of Villa Park North Ave/Vermont TIF by and between the Village of Villa Park, Illinois, and the Board of Education for the Community High School District 88, and the same narrative for item 7B, but it's for School District 45, DuPage County, Illinois. Manager Keener, you want to summarize some of this?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Over the last few weeks or month or so, Hawthorne Development is assembling its financing for the development of Garden Station on North Ardmore at the Metro Station. And as the developer was putting together the financing, or going through the various components, one of the components was the student reimbursement within the TIF district. Within TIF districts, a certain percentage of the property tax has to be set aside for student reimbursement for the school districts for students that reside in the developments. And so in this particular case, 40% of the property tax on an annual basis was needed to be set aside or reserved, if you will, for potential students that would reside in this development. As Hawthorne Development was moving through its finances, it wanted to negotiate that 40% down to 20%. And so the developer and staff, including President Boltheis, participated in school board meetings for 88 and 45, along with the developer, to negotiate that percentage basically in half, from 40% to 20%, thus helping the developer with that component of his financing, which would then free up some funds for the issuance of bonds for the principal and interest thereof. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. With that, do we have a motion for item 7A and 7B? Trustee Kazone?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we vote on items 7A and 7B at the same time.
Okay. Thank you. And that is a motion to do it? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Trustee Ciala, a second. Any questions or comments? I will add that there was quite a bit of discussion on this, and it took a while, and sometimes the numbers kept changing a little bit, made it a little more interesting to do. So, but I think that this is a really good good agreement with the school districts, and I appreciate the school districts for going along with this. They recognize the long-term financial advantage to them to take a little less upfront, but in the long run, it'll be to their advantage. So, do we have any other questions? If not, we'll go to a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
President Bolfus?
Yes, those pass, and we'll move on to the number 7C, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, establishing temporary executive powers pursuant to Chapter 8, Article 3, Section 8-301 to 308 of the Villa Park Municipal Code, and 565 ILCS 5/11-1-6 of the Illinois Municipal Code and 20 ILCS 305-11 to the Illinois Emergency Management Act. And this ordinance extends the temporary executive powers contained in ordinance number 4203, approved by the village board on February 22nd, 2021, until such time that the village board can reconvene in an open meeting. Do we have a motion for the ordinance? Trustee Wagner.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Trustee Murphy, second. Any questions? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
President Bolkus?
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to number 8A, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving the fiscal year 21 Safety Incentive Program and Safe Driver Program. Manager Keenan.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Village Safety Committee is presenting a general safety update and to report the results of the fiscal year 20 Safety Incentive Program and recommends the continuation of the Safety Incentive Program and the Safe Driver Program for fiscal year 21. Both programs have been budgeted in fiscal year 21 in account number 10-515-00-250. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, do we have a motion for the resolution? Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Trustee Murphy? Okay, any questions or comments? Do you have any input, Manager Keener, you want to add? Okay.
Your Honor, thank you.
Okay.
Human Resource Manager Jana Gorman, Your Honor, has been waiting several weeks to bring this forward, and she would like very much to present this.
Okay, great. We won't want to let her down, so.
It's been a heck of a year. I just want to start with that. We introduced a whole new level of injury or illness really, that we never had before, having to work through a pandemic. And all I can really say is thank you to our employees in Villa Park, because we work throughout, oftentimes going into the pandemic zone or the hot zone. And I can honestly say that within that period of time, we only had one workers' comp that was accepted, which is pretty amazing. We had a lot of people that had exposures. We had a lot of people that actually ended up having COVID, but as far as happening at the workplace, we're able to keep that to just one exposure. And you know, that's pretty amazing when you, like I said, when you think, especially in the beginning of the pandemic, when we really had no knowledge of what these guys were walking into. So, and guys and ladies. Anyhow, so I have never in my almost 30 years here been through anything like this. And it was an education, and I gotta say that most of us are pretty excited that the vaccines are here. And you can already tell that there's a lift in spirit. So we're really looking forward to moving forward next year. But I did want to very much thank all of the employees for really pulling together this year, because it was a rough year. So.
Okay. Thank you. Trustee Wagner.
Thank you. In the staff memo, it says that police, fire, parks and recreation, public works all attained their reduction goals except for administrative.
Yes.
Was that due to COVID, or was it some other?
No, administration has a goal of 0 accidents. So if one person in administration has one lost time day, and unfortunately we had one in the very beginning of the year, and it was not COVID related. And the individual was okay, but they lost one day. So yeah, it's the law of small numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, that's all I had.
Okay.
Anyone else? Trustee Kazone.
I just like to commend staff. I mean, that's great to go the whole year and just have one person with COVID, with the amount of people that we have and some working in some close quarters sometimes. I really commend staff, everybody, from top down. It's a good job. Excellent.
Yeah.
Trustee Tucker?
I have just one question on here. Did we get the endorsement of all 4 unions? Because it said on your, and then you're requesting it
Yes,
because of
we
the
will-
economic. Did we actually get the endorsement, all 4 of the unions?
Once you approve it, then we get a letter from each of the unions, but you would have to approve the program first before we could go to the unions and say, hey, we have a safety program for you for this upcoming year.
Are
That's
we
what you're
anticipating we're
approving.
going to have a problem, or is it just we have to approve it
No,
first
we,
and then the?
yeah, it's just the mechanics of you approve it and then we bring it to the union.
Okay.
So I do want to clarify one thing. So workers' comp, in order for you to have a workers' comp case, you had to have somebody who they could verify on the job actually was A, positive for COVID, and B, that they actually had an exposure on the job. So that was the standard or the metric that we were using.
Well, it's more than just safe driving was okay and other injuries were fine, you know, so.
Yeah, right. We
it's
only
all
had,
over.
we only had administration, and like I said, unfortunately, that was a slip and fall on the ice.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen.
It's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, staff. For,
Yes, thank you, staff. They did a really good job this year.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote on that.
Okay, trustee Kazone,
Yes.
trustee Tucker,
Yes.
trustee Patrick,
Yes.
trustee Salella.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
trustee Wagner,
Yes.
President Poltis.
Yes. Okay, number 8B and 8C both have to do with buying rock salt. So we'll try to do those two together because the questions might be pretty much the same. Well, 8B is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving the joint purchase of bulk rock salt through the DuPage County Procurement Service Division. And 8C is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving the joint purchase of black rock salt through the State of Illinois Central Management Service Bureau of Strategic Sourcing. Manager Keener, you want to summarize that?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, the village annually participates in several bidding processes, one through DuPage County, the second through the State of Illinois and its Central Management Services bidding process. And usually, Your Honor and Board and folks at home and folks in the audience, the price per ton is usually different depending upon what vendor is used by each entity. And so that's one of the reasons why we use two separate bidding processes. And additionally, another reason why is to ensure we do have the salt coming in and don't totally rely on one entity. So this year's proposals, Your Honor and Board, are 800 tons maximum from DuPage County's bidding process or through it, and then up to another 800 tons through the CMS bidding process as well, for a total max or so of about 1,600 tons. And usually on a year, we go through maybe 800 tons of rock salt during a normal winter, Your Honor and Board. And this will help us keep some on hand. Usually we'll go into a winter with maybe 1 year's rock salt on hand, and then somewhere in December we'll take possession of some tonnage from one of the entities, Your Honor and Board, and that kind of starts to carry us through the winter process. Thank you.
Do we have a motion for items B and C?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we'll combine those. We have a
Combine.
trustee Ciela. So we have a second. Trustee Wagner?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Just want to point out, you know, even where we have obligations, what is it, 80% we have to take from each of these. And then they also have, we can go over the 800 by 30%, you know, and 20%. That's based on the different ones. So what staff does is they look where they can get it for the cheapest amount. So, and that's where we generally buy it from. So, any other questions, Trustee Kazone?
Right, Manager Keener, how much tonnage have we gone through this year so far?
Maybe Michael would be better to answer that. He's got that right on the top of his head.
We've used about 1,000 tons already this year. As Manager Keener said, we normally go through 700, 800, but with the recent cold snap, we're about 1,000, and hopefully we're done this year.
I'll say you promise not to use any more, right?
I can't promise anything in Illinois.
Thank you.
I got one more
Trustee
question for Mike.
Ciala?
Calcium chloride, is that a line item under like a chemical account, or is it
Yes.
incorporated?
We actually use beet heat, is what it's
Beet
called.
juice? Yeah.
And we do, because we do make our own calcium chloride with salt brine. But that's a separate line item that we budget that through under in the budget, it falls under the rock salt purchase, but it's a different line item.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Wagner?
My question was kind of similar. I know that we use the beet heat and it kind of reduces our usage. Do we see anything in the future where we could eliminate or maybe further lessen our use of rock salt? The reason I ask that question is because I've been more than one program where people are saying the use of salt on our roads affects the aquifer. And there's a problem with that, obviously. And anything in the future that you see might cause us to use less.
I think that's correct. I think the impacts on our fresh water and our groundwater don't affect the use of salts on the roadways. The staff here has done a great job before me. I think Deputy Director Salerno has done a great job with the snow removal. That is part of the use of beet heat. It's sort of organic to replace kind of the calcium chloride. We do utilize a little bit of both, and that creates a debonding, so that water doesn't bond to the roadway to create the ice. And then we also pre-wet our salt before we spread it. And that kind of helps keep the salt in the road and keep it activated. So they've utilized the newer techniques. And a lot of it you see, we try to limit, to the dismay of some, how much salt we put down on the side streets. We kind of make sure the main roads are done. And then we try to strategically use our salt on the side streets to try to limit, limit the amount of salt we have to purchase, but two, also the environmental impacts that goes into it. We're constantly reviewing and going to webinars, this past year webinars or conferences to see new techniques, new materials, because you're right. I think the trend is going where salts and calcium chlorides have to be reduced going into fresh water.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Ciala?
Yes.
President Bolkus?
Yes, those two pass, and we'll move on to 8D, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving change order number 2 to the contract with A-Lamp Concrete Contractors, Inc. of Schaumburg, Illinois, for the 2019 pavement patching program for a deduction in the amount of $170,728. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village has a contract with A-Lamp Concrete Contractors, Inc. of Schaumburg, Illinois, in the amount of $294,400 for the construction of the 2019 pavement patching program. The proposed change order number 2 consists of both additions and deductions to contract work items and is the final change order which will balance contract quantities so the program can be closed out. Staff recommends approval of change order number 2 for a deduction in the amount of $170,728 to the contract with A-Lamp Concrete Contractors, Inc. of Schaumburg, Illinois, for construction of the 2019 pavement patching program. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for the resolution? Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
We have a second? Trustee Murphy?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Ciala?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
President Bolkus?
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to 8E, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving a contract with Builders Paving LLC of Hillside, Illinois, for construction of the Harvard Avenue Improvement Project, Jefferson Park to Plymouth, in the amount not to exceed $1,048,000. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Harvard Avenue Improvement Project, Jefferson Park to Plymouth Street, scope of work includes roadway reconstruction, water main installation, adjustment of drainage structures, sidewalk removal and replacement, parkway restoration, and other related and incidental work efforts. The project was advertised for bids on November 14, 2020. The project received substantial interest and received 10 bids for the construction of the project, which were opened on December 15, 2020. Builders Paving LLC of Hillside, Illinois submitted the lowest bid. This project will receive a $400,000 reimbursement through DuPage County's Community Development Block Grant Program. Costs for this project have been budgeted in the street improvement, water supply, stormwater, and wastewater fund accounts. Staff recommends awarding the construction contract to Builders Paving LLC of Hillside, Illinois. Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you have a motion for the resolution? Trustee Patrick?
I'd like to make that motion.
Do you have a second? Trustee Kazone?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
President Bolkus?
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to item 8F, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving a contract with Russ's Plumbing and Sewer of Addison, Illinois, for construction of the Drainage Assistance Program project at 419 to 421 South Harvard Avenue in the amount not to exceed $29,265. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village has a drainage assistance program to help mitigate private property drainage problems. Project costs are shared on the 50-50 basis with the participating homeowners. The village solicited 15 local contractors for bids to construct the drainage improvements located at 419 through 421 South Harvard Avenue and received 3 bids. The low bidder is Russ's Plumbing and Sewer of Addison, Illinois, for the amount of $29,265. The 2 homeowners that are participating in this project have agreed to fund their share and have made their full payments to the village. The village's share of the cost for this project will be taken from the Stormwater Buyout Fund account 6850210299. Staff recommends approval of the contract. Thank you, Your Honor.
Do you have a motion for the resolution? Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
Do you have a second? Trustee Stella?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I have one. Let me ask one first. Have we received the resident shares on this? Okay, we have. Thank you. Trustee Tucker.
My question is probably for both of them. How does our engineer come up with the unit pricing? Because I noticed we have a big difference in this where it usually was pretty close. On both of these, the engineer estimate unit prices were kind of far out.
Director Guerrero will hopefully have an answer.
Yeah, I don't have the exact source of how they estimated. Obviously, we utilize a consultant to help design a few of these, so they're utilizing their expertise and probably their databases to come up with it. However, it's awfully hard a lot of times to get accurate estimates when you have these smaller projects, going through people's backyards, putting in side yards, partnering with like fences and all that, dealing with fences. Those kind of impact it. So they were probably basing a lot of their estimates off of more conventional roadway work, where this is a little bit more specialized when you go into yards. So sometimes we've seen a variance. And unfortunately, I think on this one that there's a little bit bigger of a difference.
Yeah, normally they're pretty close, and this one seemed
and I believe-
pretty, the unit prices on some of these was pretty substantial difference, so that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, it's sometimes kind of hard to estimate on these smaller ones. And I believe this one or the next one, we bid out last year and it was higher than this. And that's why we got a little bit more favorable bid result this year. Last year we had difficulties getting any sort of reasonable bids due to the amount of work that was occurring because of the heavy rains. And so we went out earlier this year and got a little bit better bids.
Anything else, trustee?
No, that was my
Okay,
only
thank you.
question, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
President Bolkus?
Yes. Item 8G is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, approving a contract with Russ's Plumbing and Sewer of Addison, Illinois, for construction of a drainage assistance program project at 129 and to 137 East Washington Street in the amount not to exceed $25,570. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The village has a drainage assistance program to help mitigate private property drainage problems. Project costs are shared on a 50-50 basis with the participating homeowners. The village solicited 15 local contractors for bids to construct the drainage improvements at 129 to 137 East Washington Street and received 4 bids. The low bidder is Russ's Plumbing and Sewer of Addison, Illinois, for the amount of $25,570. The 3 homeowners that are participating in this project have agreed to fund their share and have agreed to make full payment of their shares to the village by March 5th. The village's share of the cost for this project will be taken from Stormwater Buyout Fund account 6850210299. Thank you, Ronnie.
We have a motion for the resolution, trustee Kazone.
Mr. President, I'll make that motion.
We have a second, trustee Patrick.
Like to second.
Okay. Have they paid their share? Okay, that's a yes. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
President Volkes?
Yes, that passes, and we'll move on to 8H, which is a resolution of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, appointing members of the Villa Park Stormwater Oversight Committee. Manager Keener.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Village of Villa Park has adopted and enforces the DuPage County countywide stormwater and floodplain ordinance. The ordinance provides for a variance process where a petitioner may seek relief from certain provisions of the ordinance due to hardship. All such variance requests need to be reviewed by the village's Stormwater Oversight Committee prior to submittal to the village board for final consideration. This resolution will name the positions of the Assistant Village Engineer, Community Development Director, and the Deputy Director of Public Works to the Oversight Committee instead of named individuals. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for the resolution? Trustee Wagner?
I'd like to make that motion.
Do we have a second? Trustee Kazone?
I'll second that.
Any questions or comments from the board? Trustee Tucker?
I just have one question. Once we vote the positions in, do we have to approve this every year, or does it stay until if somebody leaves, for other words, we wouldn't have to bring this up again, correct?
No.
No, it stays this way. The reason we eliminated names, so we don't have to bring it up every time we have a staff change.
Okay, so
So
this
just
would
so
stay
we get some-
permanent once we put it in effect. It
Yeah.
would roll and not have to be brought to the board again unless.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Silella?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
President Volkes?
Yes, that passes, and now we'll move on to public comments on non-agenda items. Anyone signed up? No? Okay. We'll use that one over there. It's a sign-up sheet on that other podium.
Just use this microphone or step up to
That
the
one.
front? Okay, thank you. Justin Schlensky, 436 North Fulton. In going over and reviewing, I know you're going to place it on another agenda either later this month or in months to come, with regard to the increases for water to taxpayers and residents. If there is going to be any additional increase for our general bills, because we combined water, sewer, wastewater, including waste removal from Roy Strom or the new signee, whoever's taking over for Roy Strom, and for recycling. I don't know what the contract reads for, the next 5 years or so when it comes to just actual solid waste removal, garbage and recycling. But I would just ask that if there are any additional increases from that removal service, in addition to the potential water increase, that the residents and taxpayers also be aware of the global or the cumulative increases that are proposed over the next 5 years.
So you're asking about if there's going to be an increase of the solid waste garbage pickup, you want that to also be known to the residents? 'Cause it'll be on the same bill.
Yes to both, because I think he asked two questions. So yes, they are on both both services are on the same bill that
Right.
we as residents and taxpayers receive. So yes, as to the other question of what my request actually is, yes, I would ask that any increases, either 1 year, 5 years, how many years out that the board is looking at and considering, that I feel that the board owes it to the residents and the taxpayers that for any increases, or any proposed increases over the next few years, that we as taxpayers and residents should be aware or be made aware of what those proposals look like. Because obviously if our expenses exceed the income and the revenue that are generated, we have to balance the budget somewhere. That balance comes from increasing fees. It's simple math, we get it. Or at least I get it. But if there are going to be proposals across the board, just in addition to what the presentation included, I think it's only fair that we see the totality of what those increases look like.
Well, the only other increase, the other charge on the water bill is the garbage, right?
Well,
and that has a set contract date. I don't know when that one ends.
We got about 2 more years, Your Honor.
2 more years on that one?
Okay.
So
we're currently at a flat rate. There will be no increase over the next 2 years?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Does that answer your question?
I guess it does, yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
When those 2 years come, the garbage bill will be a separate item on the agenda.
Right, but so then that third year, whenever that increase is, there will be 2 increases to that bill then?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you have the one that we're putting in the water and wastewater plus the disposal service.
Great.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the clerk's report.
Yes, I just want to remind the seniors, the retired folks that may be coming to the SALT meeting on Wednesday, the 10th, that that is something that they would have already RSVP'd to. And we expect to have a nice program. We should have our new canine dog there. Luke will be there. And it'll be a St. Patrick type of a luncheon for our seniors. So if you did call in, you did sign up, and we expect you to be there. You'll have a good time, and it looks like it'll be the next SALT meeting will probably be in a couple months. So it's a good event, and we hope to see all the folks that did call in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustees report, we'll start on the right. Trustee Patrick.
Thank you. Good evening. I'd like to take a moment to recognize one of our local Villa Park residents, Holly Sloan. Over the last year with the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, Holly has made over 1,200 masks, and also she has helped raise over $2,000 for School District 48 due to her making these homemade masks just like this one that I have here. I think that's a great accomplishment, especially with the pandemic, to make over 1,200 homemade masks, and also on top of that to be able to raise money for a local school district. So thank you, Holly Sloan, for your efforts with this. And as usual, I would like to again thank all of our first responders and essential workers out there for keeping us safe at home during this pandemic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Chiara?
No report this evening.
Trustee Kazone?
Just got a couple things. DuPage County Health Department has a call-in line for those people that do not have access to internet or computers, or are not able to do that. You can call this number and staff will help you register for vaccines. However you can get them. I know they're kind of in short supply right now, but hopefully that's going to be improving in the future. But the number is 630-682-7400. It's DuPage County Health Department, and then they'll help you with scheduling a vaccine. This Saturday, the 13th of March, Father Barrett Knights of Columbus Council and the VFW are teaming up to have a St. Patrick and St. Joe drive-through dinner and a raffle. It's $8 for either Italian beef or corned beef, $5 split the pot raffle, and this will be held at the Villa Park VFW, 39 East St. Charles Road in Villa Park. You can go online and order it. You can order up until March 10th. It's a very long website to go to, but if you go to Villa Park Moms, their Facebook page, there's a link to the getting in there so you can order online. And then finally, Economic Development Commission will be meeting next Wednesday, the 17th, here at Village Hall, 5:30. And again, we are looking for a couple of board members. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Wagner?
Thank you, President Boltus. Just want to let the members of the public know that there will be no Traffic and Safety Commission meeting this Tuesday. It's been scheduled for April 6th. Also want to let members of the public know that the preparations and planning for our spring sweep event, if all the trends continue, we're looking to have it on May 15th along Home Avenue, and looking forward to a very successful event. Just want to mention again that the Villa Park Environmental Concerns Commission is accepting nominations for their Green Champion Award. The deadline for submission is March 15th, and we're looking for folks who have performed notably in energy efficiency, renewable energy, conservation of natural resources, etc. And you can go to the village website, you can submit a nomination form electronically, or you can print it out and mail it in. And I believe that at the March meeting, the commission will be reviewing those nominations, and hopefully, with your cooperation, we'll be able to present that award in April. And just want to let the board know, I did inform Manager Keener, was on the second Zoom call today with Bianca Diaz, who is the District 45 community outreach person. And this is part of a partnership that the Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee is formed with District 45 and Ride Illinois. And we are planning, we're in the early stages of planning a bike ride that will tie in elements of bike safety for Saturday, August 14th. As I said, we're in the very early stages. And the neat thing about this is that Ride Illinois, which used to be the League of Illinois Bicyclists, they have a unique program. They administer a grant from IDOT, where if schools, if the students pass their bike quiz, each school will get a $2 stipend per student. So it's a little something, an incentive. So we're looking forward to that event. We're planning it, so just want to let the board know about that. And I also want to thank Holly Sloan as well. I'm sporting a Holly Sloan original right now, so thank her for that. Thank her for her efforts. And yeah, kudos to the county health department. On Friday, they inoculated, I believe, almost 1,000 people. And of course, it's all dependent on the availability of the vaccine. But DuPage County is doing its best to vaccinate all its residents. I'm not sure where we're at right now. It's 7.5%, but it's getting up there. And I think our optimism is growing with it as well. And that's all I have.
DuPage County leads the suburban counties for the number of doses that they've administered. So, okay, Trustee Tucker.
I just want to let everybody know that there is a Park and Rec advisory meeting tomorrow at 7. If you do plan on coming to Iowa School, please give the director a heads up so that he knows, because of space-wise, that we do have enough space for you to join us on that. The other thing is, I'd like to point out that the Villa Park Junior Women's Club is anticipating to have a forum this year. They've done in the past for the candidates running for the April 6th election. They're looking to put that forum together March 23rd at 7 p.m. at Iowa Community Center. So you might want to keep an eye on their website for more information on that political forum. They're hoping to get it together. That is all.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Murphy.
Yes, thank you. I'm noticing 2 dates of significance on our calendar before our next meeting on March the 22nd. One would be daylight savings time beginning on March 14th. I think everyone will be looking forward to a little sign of spring. So be sure and change your clocks, and that's a good thing. Secondly, as a Murphy, I would be remiss in not welcoming everyone, all of our residents, to be Irish on St. Patrick's Day, which is the 17th. And I would encourage safe celebrations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my note with on the health department report today, so I'm going to try to go off my memory. I believe, like I mentioned to Trustee Wagner, from the Collier counties, even with Cook, our percentage of people who have been vaccinated is number one. So, and I believe they told me today that they received this week something like 5,600 doses. That's first doses. That doesn't count, they also received second doses. So I don't have the total that they received, but they get doses for second doses and then additional for the first doses. So the numbers have been going up every week, and we just hope that it keeps going. But it still is, it's hard for them to plan because the information they get from the state of Illinois is sometimes somewhat questionable. So it's hard for them to plan. I think they could use almost 90,000 a week because they've got a whole bunch of people who are willing to, just something like 56, I think, people signed up or centers signed up to give vaccines, but they just don't have the quantity for them. So that's a little report on the vaccine. Again, whatever vaccine you can get, just get it. If it's a Johnson & Johnson's or anybody else, there's not a whole lot of difference between the protection you get from them. So the first one you get, just get it. So just that the Johnson & Johnson is a one shot. So the other thing I wanted to mention, we have Policeman Runge was promoted to Deputy Chief, and Officer Eston, he was promoted to Sergeant in the last week, I think it was, right? So we have a couple promotions in the police department. So congratulations to those gentlemen on their new assignments. So that's all I have. We'll move on to the manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm passing tonight.
Okay. Well, the next item on the agenda is executive session pursuant to the general provisions of the Open Meeting Act. We have 5 ILCS 1/120/2C1 personnel matters, C2 collective bargaining matters, C5 purchase and lease of property, C6 sale and lease of property, C11 pending litigation, and C21 discussion of closed session minutes. Do we have a motion for executive session?
President Bolkus, I'd like to make that motion.
Trustee Wagner, do we have a second? Trustee Kazone?
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll have to have a roll call vote on that.
Trustee Patrick?
Yes.
Trustee Salella?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Tucker?
Yes.
Trustee Wagner?
Yes.
Trustee Kazone?
Yes.
President Bolkus?
Yes. Okay, with that, we'll be going into executive session. We will not be coming back. We'll be adjourning right from the executive session. So we'll see you, our next meeting is on March 22nd at 7 o'clock.